Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. The city has picked a permanent location for its homelessness housing hub. The 2.8 hectare site is being called a giant step forward. Plus, a for sale sign on a property in Stony Point is raising questions around land use after a historical church on the site was torn down. And the city is working to fix a sinkhole downtown Windsor. We have an expert weigh in on what might have happened. A key piece of Windsor's plan to end chronic homelessness has been announced. City Council has selected the site for its new housing hub, a place that will help people using emergency shelter systems find somewhere permanent to live. But as the CBC's Chris Ensing reports, there's concerns about the location in the timeline.
Windsor's current housing hub opened nearly 4 years ago, a temporary drop-in center to help a shelter system often operating over capacity. The city has been searching for a permanent location, selecting this privately owned industrial storage lot.
7 acres, 310,000 square feet. So the sky's the limit when it comes to actually doing any type of build on this facility.
It will not operate as an emergency shelter. Instead, the development will have 64 supportive housing units with other services on site.
We're now providing housing supports. We're providing justice supports and working with justice partners. We have a shelter health initiative where we're working with health partners in our community to provide shelter health for our homeless. We're looking at other supports, mental health, addictions. So when you talk about wraparound services, this is going to be a huge opportunity for our community when we talk about the services that could be available to this population.
The downtown councillor says he supports this selection.
It's going to be a long process, and I know there's some people that aren't happy as well because people feel like we're moving the problem, right? And I think we're addressing the problem. And again, you try and make everybody happy, you make nobody happy.
The location was selected by City Council in a series of closed-door meetings picked from 200 sites that fit criteria from a report completed 2 years ago. A consultant said the housing hub needs to be within 2 kilometers of shelters like the Downtown Mission and Welcome Center because people using the services say they won't travel any further, even if it's on a bus route. This site is on the very edge of that 2-kilometer radius, a major concern for West End councillor Fabio Costante, who voted against the site, saying the housing hub should be at the center of the wheel of services, not the outside. He adds the city-owned properties should have been selected. Councillor Fred Francis agrees.
Well, I was opposed to it. I thought there was a number of other options that we could have moved forward with at a less costly scenario. I know some of the chosen locations were owned by the city, so I wanted to move forward in looking at those first. I thought that would be more pragmatic, more practical, and more cost-effective.
No one will say which other sites were considered, and the costs are still being tallied. A pre-inflation estimate puts the project at $50 million. The city still needs to buy the land. Negotiations didn't work, so they will turn to expropriation, saying it could take months to purchase the property at market value. City staff say it will be 3 years minimum before anyone uses the site. The temporary hub will remain open in the meantime. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
The cause for a sinkhole in downtown Windsor is still unclear today. The city says it's likely a water main issue, but that's yet to be confirmed. Crews were out today to start making repairs. The area is expected to reopen to traffic tomorrow evening. CBC Windsor spoke with some downtown residents who live nearby and an expert who explains what might have happened.
Well, I wasn't really surprised because I know that this intersection's been acting a little weird over the last few weeks every time I drove down here, but didn't expect anything like this.
And I heard you kind of making a comment to your friend about it. Tell me what you said to him when you saw it.
It's one of Windsor's larger potholes. That's exactly what I said.
I was just scrolling through social media and I saw the story on it and I was kind of surprised. Well, sort of surprised. The roads are so bad in Windsor, I'm actually kind of shocked it hasn't happened sooner. And I'm surprised it's not deeper than what it is.
Sadly, the roads need repairs all through Windsor and Essex County.
Well, sinkholes, and we talk about pavement infrastructure, it simply means that there was a hole beneath our pavement or our road surface. And so there was a loss of support somewhere there. And so the roadway had to give up because there was no foundation holding it anymore.
University of Windsor campus police are investigating some hateful vandalism on campus. 3 slurs were etched into the door of a student pride center discovered April 10th to 12th. The offices in response were closed a week earlier than normal for the summer. In each case, the UWSA says a slur was discovered in the morning, covered up only to reappear the next day. Now the Students Alliance is looking at ways to help ensure student safety. They've launched a needs assessment students can fill out online to provide feedback. The UWSA is also considering adding security cameras and offering extra training for people at the Pride Center.
Even though this incident seems to be huge, and honestly it is, it was a shock to all of us. No one expected this to happen. When we posted our statement, the outpour of support was so loud. Hundreds of likes, even more shares. Folks were reaching out, asking how they can support. And that really shows us that our community is working towards betterment. It's just some voices, though they are a small group of people, are very loud.
The site where a 118-year-old church in Stony Point once stood is now up for sale, coming as a surprise and also concern to some, as the property owner previously said he would build townhouses. The CBC's Dale Mullner has more.
Annunciation Church in Stony Point was torn down last November, but just a few weeks ago the property went up for sale. According to the listing, the owner is asking for more than $1.3 million. The listing also states there are a wide variety of uses for the land, including retail, commercial, institutional, and residential. The owner of the hardware store across the street says the community is wondering about the future.
Everybody's got lots of questions, and unfortunately, now we get to see what the next step is. For a guy that was really adamant about building something there, to put it for sale seems really interesting.
David Tremblay was involved in trying to save the church. He's not optimistic anything will be built.
We could have had a historical building here. Now we have an empty lot. I know what the possibility, but right now the possibilities are zero. There's no sewer capacity. There's nothing here, so it's going to probably stay an empty lot.
A town official has confirmed there are still sewer capacity issues in the area, so development would be limited to something similar to the church that was there. However, the municipality is working on a wastewater master plan. Ward 6 Councillor Larissa Vogler, who represents the area, wants to wait for a report from administration before giving her preferences for future development.
I wouldn't want to speculate on what will be proposed for that piece of property, and I wouldn't want any comment I make to be taken as a commitment should things change in the future.
Tremblay wants to see the site recognized for its history.
There should at least be a plaque there so we can say once there was a church here, a community building here.
CBC News has reached out to the owner, Kamal Lasheen, for a comment, but we haven't heard back. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Stony Point.
It's that time of year. Wheatley, the country's freshwater fish capital, is anticipating another bountiful season. Afternoon Drive's new host, Matt Allen, went to visit the Taylor Fish Company.
My name is John Hyatt. I am the owner of Taylor Fish Company in Wheatley, Ontario, Canada. Lake Erie was always a big producer of lake fish all the way back into the early turn of the century of the 1900s, and generally shipped fish out of here all the way to New York City and Chicago and basically the Midwest. And we've just continued on with it. While a lot of the fisheries changed over the years, we're still doing basically the same thing we did over 100 years ago. My father worked in the fishing industry, and my wife's father and parents worked in the fishing industry. My father-in-law was a fisherman for years. Basically, we started the fishery 20 years ago this summer, this part here, because our boys were growing up and we wanted something for them to do. Yeah. So I had always sold fish right out of college, and decided that at some point we could do it ourselves. Yeah. So that's kind of what led us here. Fantastic town. We've been through some troubling times recently with the explosion and not getting the town put back together again the way it should be, but hopefully there's a new beginning around the corner and we'll be back where it was.
Colette, we are getting so lucky with all the sunshine and nice weather. In fact, I think it's gone to our heads a little. And when I say our heads, I actually mean my grandpa's, who says he's going to open the pool this weekend.
Oh, okay, wait, let me just think that, we'll be in May, but it's going to be early May. It'll be the 4th on Saturday. I like it. I like it.
I like it too. Exactly. And you know, he's seeing all that sun and we're seeing all this nice weather, and it makes you want to get out and do those summer things.
All right, well, good. Shout out to Grandpa then. I like his attitude. Hopefully he's watching from home.
Oh, he is.
Okay, good. You know, it's actually looking fairly nice. And it helps, too, when you not only have some nice temperatures, but you get a little bit of humidity in there as well. Makes you want to dive into that pool. I wonder if it's heated. We'll get to that tomorrow. I do want to show you some of the heat through the Midwest. It comes through parts of the Ohio Valley into southwestern Ontario, and then it kind of ends here. I mean, it stretches to about Hamilton up to 20 degrees today, and then beyond that, it's not that it's bad weather, but temperatures closer to seasonal or even below by the time you get to the nation's capital. So yeah, we're in the sweet spot here in southwestern Ontario, Windsor at 22. Where you get the breeze off the lake or the lake influence, yes, the temperature's a little bit cooler, but pretty good there. Chatham, Kent as well. The humidex, not much of a humidex value. It's going to be kind of the same tomorrow. I'll show you, but you add, you know, a few numbers to it. It's not oppressive, that's for sure. So there you see the sustained winds. So Sarnia cooler, it's coming in off Lake Huron, more of a west to southwesterly flow, though, where we have elsewhere, and then makes sense that we have these milder temperatures that we're looking at. A lot of sunshine, too, which really is a lucky factor here with the way this system is kind of engulfing the Great Lakes area and beyond, quite frankly. I mean, look at this, another one coming in through the northern plains all the way down towards the southern plains, and look at those lightning strikes. So yet another one kind of lined up, but this one here is still giving some of those rain showers and a lot of low clouds along the north shore of Lake Ontario and into eastern Ontario. But in between the two, we've got that high pressure that's nosing in here, and that's the benefit is all the sunshine and the clear skies at night too. So still some activity and some patchy fog over towards eastern Ontario, looking good with clear skies. Could have a little bit of fog, especially closer to the lakeshore, even through this region, and then through not only tomorrow, but even as we go into Thursday, things are looking pretty good, holding on to that sunshine. Tonight then, 10 degrees for Windsor. Tomorrow, 25, UV index very high, and then overnight temperatures you see kind of elsewhere, they're very close, even if they're in the single digits. And how about tomorrow, the temperatures beyond just Windsor, Leamington the same at 25, Chatham, Kent 24, and then 23 for London and Sarnia, and there's your humidex value, so it's definitely not oppressive. Thursday, 22, still have the sun, then some clouds, chance of showers come towards the weekend. Hopefully not raining on Grandpa's plants.
Well, Colette, those are warm enough to swim. I mean, 25 degrees is pretty warm.
Is the pool heated? I'm just curious.
No, it's not. But what I will say is that
it takes time for the water to heat
up. It does, but it doesn't matter to him. You know, he loves swimming. He's in his mid-80s. And the pool is very important to him. He'd get out no problem.
I love it. I really do.
Thanks so much for that, Colette.
Yeah, take care.
Beautiful evening with those bright sunny skies and barely any clouds. And as Colette mentioned, that nice weather is sticking around. We have some more news coming up after the break. Stay tuned. Fiery multi-vehicle crash on Highway 401 near Whitby has claimed the lives of 2 grandparents and their infant grandchild. That's after police were in pursuit of a robbery suspect who was driving the wrong way on the highway. That person also died. Dale Manukduk has the latest.
Cell phone video captured last night shows a cargo van speeding in the wrong direction on Highway 401. Brody Mills is the one who shot it. In it, you can see a Durham Regional Police vehicle in pursuit.
The speeds would be above 160 if I was to guess, because I was doing 110, 120, and it was as if I'd parked my truck on the highway when they passed me.
Police say the cargo van was fleeing a robbery at a Bowmanville LCBO some 30 kilometers away. Around 7:50 Monday night, an off-duty officer was at the liquor store and called the incident in. Police arrived and then pursued the cargo van through Durham Region and onto the highway. It resulted in a crash involving at least 6 vehicles, killing 4 people.
An occupant of the cargo van was pronounced deceased at the scene. 3 individuals from a civilian vehicle were also pronounced deceased at the scene. And in that vehicle were a 60-year-old, a 55-year-old, and an infant.
The province's police watchdog, who investigate incidents where people are killed or seriously injured during situations involving police, say it was grandparents with their grandchild who died. Another person was also seriously injured and taken to hospital. The Special Investigations Unit say it was a man who was in the cargo van that was being investigated by police. Police have not identified anyone involved in the crash.
It was a really big collision scene, and we're still trying to get to the bottom of how many vehicles, how were they involved, where people were from, that type of thing.
The SIU is also looking into the circumstances that led to the highway chase and whether it followed police protocols and policies.
We need to be open-minded to see as to whether the risk taken was reasonable at the time.
Stephen Somerville is a retired Toronto Police Staff Sergeant and also taught suspect apprehension pursuits at the police college.
There's a 3-part test that officers must use to determine whether or not a pursuit should be initiated. That 3-part test is, number 1, the officer has reason to believe that a criminal offense has been or is about to be committed, or for the purposes of identifying the vehicle or an individual in a vehicle. 2, there are no other alternatives, reasonable alternatives available. And 3, in order to protect public safety, this immediate need to apprehend or identify an individual in the fleeing motor vehicle outweighs the risk to public safety that may result from the pursuit.
Somerville says investigators will also look at the seriousness of the offense involving the suspect, in this case the alleged LCBO robbery. He also notes that pursuit should stop once the vehicle or suspect is identified. It's unclear if Durham police identified the cargo van before it entered the highway. Meanwhile, at a press conference in Caledon, the Premier offering his condolences.
It's heart-wrenching when you see everyone from a grandfather to a little baby that lost their lives because someone decides to rob a liquor store and go on the other side of the highway. It's a tragedy.
Ford also mentioned the province is funding GTA police with 4 new helicopters, something he says could help avoid high-speed chases. Durham police already have their own chopper. It's unclear if it was used during this pursuit. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Whitby.
Coming up, we introduce you to an ice dancer duo that's turning heads at an Edmonton mall. We have their story after the break. latest check on the health of Canada's economy shows it grew in February, but at a rate below what most analysts had predicted. CBC's Scott Peterson has the details.
Overall, these numbers are showing that the economy is in fact slowing, and that's not necessarily bad news. This is as per the design of the Bank of Canada, and the reason we saw all those interest rate hikes in the first place, in order to design to step on the brakes and to slow the economy. And this is exactly what we're seeing for the month of February. The economy is slowing more than analysts and economists were expecting, at a growth rate month over month of only 0.2%, and again below the expectations. Our annual inflation rate, when you annualize the numbers, is only at 0.8%, and that too was below economic expectations. And there's a flash estimate from Statistics Canada as well for the month of March, and they expect that to be pretty much even, or pretty much no change as it is for this month as well. So that means overall we have an annual growth rate of about 2.5%, and that's below even what the Bank of Canada was expecting. And again, sort of good news in the sense that this will reduce the pressure on the Bank of Canada to raise interest rates. But let's dig into some of these numbers. That the growth in the transportation and warehousing sector was at 1.4% in February. That was the biggest gain this year. Rail transportation also up 5.5%, and that's a big rebound after some of the harsh cold weather that we were having a few months before that. Air transportation also up 4.8%. That's the largest growth since the middle of May 2022. Now, overall, this paints a picture of a slowing economy that we're seeing. We're now, economists are somewhat divided. About 50-50 believe that this will take enough pressure off the Bank of Canada. So 50-50 believe we might see a rate cut as soon as June the 5th at the next Bank of Canada interest rate decision. But clearly the numbers are saying that the economy is slowing more than economists were expecting. Scott Peterson, CBC News, Toronto.
An ice dancing pair is turning heads at West Edmonton Mall, and not just because of their moves. CBC Edmonton was there as the seniors laced up for a few laps.
We come almost every day, usually.
I just got an old pair of hockey skates and tried it out. I never dreamed I would try ice dancing in my life until just recently here.
I came back to skating in 2007, and I wanted something for exercising. And I came walking by here and I saw a lady figure skating, and I said, I want to do that. So that was how it began.
Well, I saw the people skating here, and I recognized one person, and he says, for seniors, why don't you come out? Well, I still had my old skates. I thought, well, this might be good exercise to do, and I come out and tried it again. There we go. If you ever skated once, it's like riding a bicycle. It'll probably come back. One of the ladies here, she used to ice dance a lot, and she really missed it, and she talked about it so much. And she complained that there's nobody to partner. So I said, if you'll teach me, I'll try. So the interest was sparked, and we went on YouTube to get the lessons, and it's basically from the YouTube we do what we do. You don't have to be perfect. If you enjoy it, try it.
I'm 82.
84.
We've been skating together 3 to 4 years.
Didn't know each other before skating.
No, we're not married, but we just ice dance together. And Stan and his wife, we sometimes go out for suppers or concerts together with others in the group too. We have a lot of people that will seek us out and tell us they enjoyed watching us.
It doesn't bother me. I see people filming us all the time. And when they clap, it just makes me feel good.
We have fun out there, and you're never too old to have fun, so yeah, it's great.
Well, it's been 50 years since Abba won the Eurovision Song Contest with their song Waterloo. The victory turned the Swedish group into an international pop sensation, and people in a city there are reliving the good old days at an exhibition to mark the anniversary.
In my generation, it was also very common that people asked you, do you prefer Beatles or Stones? And my reply was always, Abba. It's the music I grew up with.
Fans are immersing themselves in the group's sounds and styles at the Abba Museum. They're taking in exhibits as well as segments on the musical Mamma Mia and the band's virtual stage show Abba Voyage. The exhibit is in Malmo, the same city that's hosting this year's Eurovision Song Contest on May 11th. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also download the CBC News app for stories that matter most to you. And don't forget to watch The National tonight at 9 on CBC News Network, 10 p.m. on the CBC News app, CBC TV, and streaming on CBC Gem and CBC Explore. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.